Hey guys, my name is Jessica Leichtwesiz, CEO of Hope Education Services. By now, you're probably following my video channel, and you know that every week I help bring information to families affected by autism. And tonight I have a very, very special guest on my show. So I'm actually on the go. A lot of people, you may have read my books, you might hear my podcasts or see my videos. What you don't know is that I'm in the field all day, every day. So right now I'm on the go and I'm in between kids that I work with, and my amazing friend, she offered so generously to come and do a video for you guys. She's also just at the library waiting for her son to come out of an activity that he's part of. So her and I were taking this networking group together. We're helping each other really learn how to grow and expand and really bring our services to more and more people. And she was interested in what I do because she has a son with autism. So every week I work really, really hard to try to bring you information that's just going to really help change your family's life. But there's a limit to what I can do as a practitioner. And I know that sometimes speaking from the perspective of, or hearing the perspective of a mom who's been through what you're going through if your child was just diagnosed, be more helpful than anything that I can give you. And for her and I, we share a little bit of history, and I actually helped her in the beginning get her child the services that he needed at a time when she didn't really know what to do. And so she was just really excited to come on and make sure that everybody who's listening into this today, who's wondering what they should do if they're concerned their child may have autism, may have some form of disability, a speech delay, and if they did get a diagnosis, where they can get started. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring my 5 things she wished she knew when her child was first diagnosed. So Reneé, thank you so much for in the middle of the day. I know schedules are busy, just coming on and really giving to my audience.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica. And I know I've told you before just how much I appreciate you and how grateful I am to you because, like you said, you really were the first person that told me about some of the services that my son might be eligible for. So today, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was really just the 5 things that I wish I knew before my son was diagnosed, because I think for the biggest one for me was just knowing that I could get services. I could be the one that initiates. And so first thing that I wanted to say is I really didn't know or understand just how broad the autism spectrum really was. Now, I have an 18-year-old stepson who at the time was 14, and we were going through a diagnosis process with him. So I did have an idea of what autism was. He was considered to be Asperger's, and my, at the time, 18-month-old was having some symptoms that I really had no idea would have been contributed to by autism. He was the complete opposite of, my then 14-year-old. He was my 18-month-old was sensory seeking. He was, pushing his body into me, and, he was really loving and had good eye contact. So I never would have thought that the things that I was seeing would have been considered autism, considering that I had a child already that was being diagnosed with autism, and my younger child was the complete opposite. So that was really the first thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, is just how broad of a spectrum autism really is. Because before I was in this process and I had kids that were being diagnosed with autism, I really did not understand what autism was. I had this image of autism as being, a child that's stimming all the time, that has really poor eye contact, that's super sensitive to touch, that it does not want to be touched. And so I did have one child that was like that. My oldest son is sensitive to touch, does not like touch. But my youngest, like I said, was nothing like that. He sought touch. He was always loving and hugging. And he actually, we just thought he was just being too rough, that he was playing too rough, when really those were all just symptoms that he had a sensory processing disorder. And he didn't know how rough he was playing. He just couldn't tell. So, and the second thing that I wanted to let you guys know about, and this is really what Jessica helps me with, was that you can reach out to early intervention yourself. I was waiting for my pediatrician to catch on. I knew my son's language was delayed, and I kept bringing it to her attention. I kept saying, and she just looked at, his milestones up to that point. He had been on track, but pediatricians only spend a few minutes with your child at their well visit. They don't see the whole picture. You're the mom, you know best. You're seeing them every day. And really just trust yourself, trust your instincts. If you feel something's wrong, bring it to the attention of someone else. Call early intervention, get that scheduled. I really didn't understand that I could do that myself before talking to Jessica. So I am forever grateful to her for that tip alone, because had I not done that, we would not have caught my son's diagnosis as early as we did. This was even before he had an autism diagnosis. It was through early intervention that they really started catching, we reached out to early intervention about speech, but it was his speech therapist, they obviously work with kids day in and day out. They were seeing symptoms, oh, that's a red flag. Oh, that sensory seeking, that's a red flag. And so I had no idea. These were things that I just thought were normal toddler behavior. So while I have a stepson, I did not have him at this age. So he was, my youngest is my first child. I really just didn't know. And so these were all things that I would have thought were just normal. And they weren't. And so I was so glad, that we got early intervention and we started getting services, and it was them that caught that, hey, you should probably schedule with a developmental pediatrician and get them checked out. There's no harm in getting them checked out. And then, so that brings me to my third tip. You don't have to wait until you have a diagnosis. You don't have to wait to call early intervention until you have that label attached to your child's name. You can start getting services if they're showing signs of a delay. For us, it was mainly speech. If they're showing signs of delay, you qualify for services. Start getting those services. Start getting your child the help that they need. You do not need to wait for a diagnosis. I know for us, it was a 6 to 9 month waiting list just to get into a developmental pediatrician. Imagine how much time I would have lost had I not started services with my son. So that's a big thing for me. Just don't delay. Get them in. Start working with them. You don't need the diagnosis. I had even gone to a course at the Autism Treatment Center of America, and I had scheduled it before my son was even diagnosed because he had symptoms. I knew that they were going to train me to work with my son in a way that was going to be beneficial, whether he got the diagnosis or didn't. So definitely, you don't need to wait. You can make so much progress. My fourth tip is, once you do get that diagnosis, you may qualify for services that under medical assistance. So you can qualify for medical assistance that can give you services that you only will get if you have that medical assistance. For us, it was called wraparound services. So my son does get a therapist that comes to the house to work with my son one-on-one. So it definitely helps. It helps offset the cost. If you already have a child that's diagnosed with autism, I don't have to tell you that treatments are expensive. You have speech, you have OT, you have behavior. If you have a TSS that's coming into the schools to work with your child, if you have a BSC, all of these costs add up, and medical assistance just helps offset that cost. And my number one tip for all of you is, most of you are probably moms, and if you're not, you're dads, or you know someone that's really close to you that you're seeing signs that they might be on spectrum, or maybe they even already have a diagnosis. But my number one tip is to just trust your mommy gut, or maybe your daddy gut, but just trust your gut, trust your instincts. If you know or feel like something's off with your child, trust that. If I listened to every person that told me, oh, he'll talk when he's ready. Oh, boys talk later than girls. Oh, be thankful that he's not talking, because once he starts talking, you'll never be able to shut him up. If I listened to every single one of those people, my son would not be where he is today, because I wouldn't have gotten him help. I had a friend that had a son no diagnosis, but he didn't start talking until he was almost 4. So when my son was about 20 months and not talking, it really didn't seem odd, all that odd, because I had a friend that also had a child that wasn't speaking yet. But still, I felt in my gut that there was something that wasn't right, that he should be talking by now. He should be doing more than what he was doing. Every other milestone he had hit, he was a great kid. But I just, in my gut, felt like there was something that was off. And so my tip to you is, just trust your gut. I'm a firm believer in the earlier you start, the better off your child's going to be. And, just, if you just feel like something's not right, get them checked out. What's the worst that's going to happen? They either ease your mind and tell you that everything's okay, or you start getting the services that you need that are going to benefit your child. It's really a win-win. So those are my 5 tips. And thank you so much, Jessica, for letting me come on to your video. And I love what you're doing in the autism community. And I know you and I are both believers that you can absolutely recover from autism. And I just want to share a little bit about my story of, Jessica knows from our very beginning of our story, when my son was not talking. He was about 19 months old and he had no words, none. She had asked me how he was communicating, and at that point he was just pulling me around, and he's now 3.5 years old, and he's speaking in sentences, and he's really doing really great. I mean, like, fantastic. He's in a neurotypical school right now. In fact, he goes to the preschool across the street, which is why I'm at the library. And this is where I come to work while he is, getting the services that he needs and being around neurotypical kids. So I am so grateful to you, Jessica. And thank you so much for having me on this call.
Thank you, Reneé. Absolutely. And I just wanted to bring that up. And we're going to be doing a video about that really soon, that, a lot of people, when parents are getting a diagnosis, as a practitioner, I can't even imagine what that feels like. But just knowing that there is hope and that recovery is possible, and that autism doesn't have to be a life sentence for every child. And, and I think it's amazing. And everyone listening into this, like, really think what Reneé's saying and get the steps to get the services. With the right treatment, children can recover. They can go on to typical preschool setting, kindergarten setting, and really excel and really create the life that every parent wants for their child. So thank you so much for sharing that advice. I mean, it's amazing. And just hearing it from your perspective, it just gives parents more than I can give them, just knowing that it worked for you. So thank you so much. And if you're listening to this video for the first time, you can check out our videos. We post a video every week at parenttrainedvideos.com. Reneé, we'd love to have you back again in the future for another video. And on that note, everyone, make it an amazing, amazing week. And I look forward to connecting with you again. Thanks again, Reneé, for coming on.
Thanks, Jessica. Bye, everyone.